Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Weekly Comic Roundup. We've already kind of started with last night's videos, but I'll try to make it through and cover the rest. Kicking this off, today we've got Deadpool number 3. Where we left off, Deadpool had failed his audition for the excuse me. For the Atelier, a secret society of elite assassins, and had also been infected with a small version, a piece of the Carnage symbiote by a villain named the Harrower. And in escaping the Harrower, as well as his partner for the audition, fellow would-be initiate of the Atelier, Lady Deathstrike. Deadpool went to his contact with the Atelier. The person he's supposed to contact to, basically the point of contact. That's the best way to put it. Yeah, and promptly passed out at their door. So we open with Lady Deathstrike having lunch with Lord Deathstrike. Lord Deathstrike, her brother, informs her that she should be embarrassed, but he's managed to get her another chance. Take out Doc Ock and Deadpool. Speaking of Deadpool, he wakes up at Valentine's apartment. They've served him eggs that have been eggs and bacon. Set up to form a happy face, and she's put some ketchup around the eggs to make to kind of be a knot as a means of basically making Deadpool as breakfast. But she's trying to she is trying to help, or they're trying to help him, and with the whole the symbiote thing. But apparently they've said that they think Wade's cute, but while trying to tell them that he's not that great, even though he's spent most of the last couple issues obsessing over them. Deadpool at one point even states that that Mystique once described him as more red flags than a relationship subreddit, and that was a compliment. But the two of them decide to. One, Valentine has found a means of keeping the symbiote calm and docile for the moment, but wants to get an idea of how the symbiote reacts to external stimuli, being around people, animals, everything, any various things that one might need to know. Meanwhile, Doc Ock and Harrower are having lunch. They have formed an alliance, and they wrecked the restaurant because people at the booth next to them don't think that Ock's the real Doc Ock. And it turns out the reason that Harrower picked the place was a bottomless mimosas. But Deadpool and Valentine go to the Metropolitan Zoo as a means of. It makes for a good baseline, as you've got a lot of external stimuli. Valentine can use being somewhat flirty with Wade, which is kind of Wade. It's on the one hand, Wade's just like yay. On the other hand, it's like but why? However, turns out that Harrower has engineered a homing instinct into the Carnage Sliver, which Deadpool is having to keep in check at the zoo. And so, Doc Ock and Harrower show up. Harrower bonds some giraffes with the plant plant life, and has also apparently hyper evolved some bugs, which Lady Deathstrike has to deal with. But Valentine and Wade are working with the symbiote. In part, maybe they can train it. It would not be a bad idea. But the symbiote actually suggests that Deadpool and Valentine kiss. They're about to when the giraffes attack. And it turns out there's other creatures that have been modified by Harrower as well. And it ends with the recipe for Valentine's breakfast friends, and that, like I said, is where the issue ends. Interesting. I am enjoying the new Deadpool. It does feel like a Deadpool book, which is important. When a book doesn't, when a series for a character doesn't feel like it's that character's book, but there's a reason given for that, I'm a little more accepting. But yeah, Alyssa Wong it definitely has Deadpool's voice, or should I say voices, pretty well down pat. Moving on though to our next book, we've got Immortal X-Men number 10. Where we left off, Sinister tried, and eventually succeeded, to kill at least the psychics, and those capable of utilizing psychic abilities on the Quiet Council. That means Xavier, Emma, Exodus, and Hope, before escaping himself. So he's basically making a new start point, in part because he doesn't want to have to live through Judgment Day again. Back on Krakoa, X-Force is investigating, while Cable is bringing Hope's body to the Five. Or, well, to Arbor Magna. But we have a text portion page explaining the resurrection redundancy, and the fact that they're not sure if it would actually work. Because sure, maybe sync or mimic copying Egg or Proteus or Tempest or even Elixir. Yeah, that's fine. Hope is a bit more anomalous. That said, sync Mimic is initially asked, but he can't. Too much pressure. Whereas Sync just says he'll do it, but he needs to be as close to Hope as he possibly can be to actually pull this off. And it works. Hope is resurrected, then Exodus, then Xavier, then Emma. But turns out that the hidden base, the hidden city that Sinister had underneath Alaska, he's gone back to as his hideout. He's also already begun working on chimeras, such as an Eye-Boy Cyclops hybrid, which honestly, that's not the worst idea in the world for a chimera. At least in some respects. But the issue is told largely from the viewpoint of Xavier. And it's he kind of shows that he knows he knows that people often have this almost saint-like reverence for him, or usually as a means of to roll their eyes at the dreamer, the optimist. But he knows he's not that. Even stating that he had two horrible fathers, and he tried to not be a horrible father, so he became. Or he said when he was younger, he decided not to be a horrible father like them. So he simply became a horrible father in his own way. But talking about how the forming of the X-Men wasn't all that benevolent. You've got things like he basically recruited. He found the right tools, as it were. But and there were ones that were also there were mutants that were definitely very members of the X-Men. In fact, that were not for whatever reason were not encouraged. In some ways, with explanations. The fact that Beast is an intellect that rivals his own. The fact that Angel, has the financial resources. There's a whole thing earlier. Bobby, an ocean of talent barely touched. Beast, a mutant gift. Chained to a genius that exceeds mine. Warren, a mutant gift married to wealth that exceeded my own. Jean, prodigy psychic. You get the idea. And of course Scott, who had also had a similar, had some, had been raised by a terrible person and become basically the leader the team needed. When he reformed the X-Men, a trained circus acrobat, an ex-Interpol agent, and of course, who can forget the Black Ops killer. But we also learned that among the things he said is that he knows he's not he knows he's not a terrible person. He knows what he could do. For example, he states that if him and Eric had each other's power sets instead, humanity would likely be extinct by now. But he does state that with the gifts he's done things that are at the very least questionable. Apparently, he has anyone that would have access to the ability to start a nuclear war, to launch nuclear weapons. He's put a psychic block in their mind. Kind of thing where if they were to do so, they'd stop. Anyone involved in the process. Any redundancy, any person with any redundancy has that same mental block. But sure, he could influence directly. He could just, basically psychically tell a lawmaker to write a law, and then have a unanimous vote in favor of it, have it signed, but psychically tell the president to sign all that. That's something he could do, but that's not something he thinks is the right thing to do. That's debatable, but That's somewhat debatable, I'll at least say. But yeah. Anyway, Sinister is returned to Krakoa and sentenced to the pit. And it is stated that they no longer need Sinister. So, however, after Sinister's exile into the pit, Destiny takes Mystique by the arm and suggests they leave immediately. Back in his home on Krakoa, Xavier removes his helmet and reveals it appears that Sinister's backup plan with him has manifested. For those unaware, Xavier's father, as well as Juggernaut's father, worked on Operation Black Womb, along with Sebastian Shaw's father, Destiny, and Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister. When it came to the children of Shaw, Marco, and Xavier, Sinister put a kind of a backup. There were others involved as well, but there was a backup basically placed a genetic backup trigger type thing, so that if Sinister died, then it would Sinister's basically, and not just genetics, but also not just his genetic abilities, but his genetics, but also his personality would take over that person. This is how we ended up with the Miss Sinister character a while back. But anyway, that is where the issue ends, and we are setting things up for the Sins of Sinister, which I think basically officially kicks off before Dark Web actually ends. But anyway, moving on to our next book, and speaking of Dark Web, we're starting with Dark Web tie-ins with Venom number 15. Where we left off, Venom, having been regressed to his we'll call it initial state as a character by Chasm, attacked Spider-Man. He was defeated, then attacked the X-Men and was defeated. In fact, defeated by Sync, who managed to copy the symbiote's abilities. But he ended up knocked out, ended up back on the street, and took the Bedlam form when Codex, Eddie's son Dylan, attacked. So Eddie and Dylan are duking it out, with Eddie seemingly having taken on the a more classic Venom look. Bedlam wants the Venom symbiote back, but it turns out that earlier things were explained. Basically, Dylan is both the son of Eddie, and the son of the Venom symbiote. And he can remove, when he bonds with the symbiote, he can remove that symbiote from the hive mind. But he cuts off one of Bedlam's hands when his but he didn't attack Bedlam alone. He did so with a Normie Osborn, having turned Normie into basically allowing Normie to once again become the Red Goblin, or something at least similar to the Red Goblin. But as they swing into action, Miss Marvel sees them, and honestly, they managed to do pretty decently against Bedlam. With Codex taking on his changing his look to, well, what he's kind of going for now is more black and red and black and white. But Miss Marvel shows up, and when Codex tries to kill Bedlam, Miss Marvel shows up saying that no one's getting killed. There's not going to be any killing, because if there is, she's going to be in a bit of trouble. But that is where the issue ends. We got one more Dark Web tie-in to go, and then I do believe get back to the primary story. But anyway, moving on to our next book. We've got Dark Web X-Men number 3. Where we left off, in Limbo, Madeline Pryor had basically convinced, not talking, but Madeline Pryor was invading New York. Magic opted to take some of the X-Men into Limbo, namely herself, Jean, Cyclops, and Havoc. The 4 of them were captured. Jean and Magic were taken by Madeline, and Alex and Scott were put in a cell, with Scott having his visor removed and basically being surrounded by puppies. So he couldn't open his eyes, because if he did, well, he'd kill a puppy. Alex informed Madeline that he's in therapy right now, and that he's actually leaving the X-Men because he doesn't feel he doesn't. That's not the place he needs to be. He intends to serve Krakoa, but not he doesn't think that he can do so the best way by being on the current X-Men lineup. Meanwhile, the treehouse is being utilized for basically as a safe haven to keep people, make sure people aren't injured by the carnivorous and formerly inanimate objects. But as Madeline can't attack Krakoa, well, may as well make everything Krakoa. May as well make as much as possible into Krakoa. But we get a bit about Madeline's past. And her and Jean argue a bit with Madeline, making it clear what it is she wants from Jean, namely the memories that Jean has of raising baby Nathan. And Jean says, "Yeah, okay, fine. I'll share those memories with you." But not just kind of not wanting the memories, but also the emotions attached to them, which Jean is willing to do. But it takes a minute for all that to get for Madeline to kind of hear and understand that. Memories are shared, and she gets a whole bunch of the memories that Jean has of raising Nathan after Madeline tried to sacrifice him to demons. And Madeline gets to shout out the battle cry, "To me, my X-Men." The puppies are safe, and they're being brought out by Alex and Scott. As they're heading back to Earth, it's also Jean pushed the council to resurrect Madeline, as did Alex. And as the X-Men leave Limbo with Madeline, so Madeline trying to opt to fix things, Magic wants to know if all the puppies have to go home or can they keep one or two. And that is where the miniseries ends. This portion of things being continued in Dark Web Dawn. Which brings us now to our last book for the moment. We've got Alien, number 5. Where we left off, one of the human survivors, one of the humans living on, what was the name of this planet? On Toddler 9, one of them has become infected with one of the various genetic monstrosities that was initially being worked on, and has turned into some sort of xenomorph adjacent creature, which the Hive will listen to, and is attacking the other survivors. But SEAL Team has gone and is doing what they can to save them. However, it seems that they're only really able to save one of them, little girl. But explosives are set, the complex is blown. But turns out that what it was the SEAL team was sent to retrieve, the human survivors had already been utilizing. That was something that would potentially make them at least somewhat immune to radiation poisoning. And it seems to work just fine. But the hybrid thing, it comes face to face with the Queen and more of the Hive. And a rescue beacon is activated, but more of the SEAL team gets taken down. And Elijah from SEAL Team tosses the girl into into the nest, where she comes face to face with the Queen and a bunch of opening eggs. And that is where the issue ends. And apparently, in the next few months, I think we're getting another Alien number 1. So I think Marvel is beginning to get the idea of how Dark Horse managed to make Alien a successful comic property for them back in the 80s and 90s. Starting to. We'll see. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard.